1-1. 911, what's the address of your emergency?
My neighbor is laying on the ground. She is hurt. She has blood all over her body.
I know a place where dealers roam and they very scary. Try and bust your brain like when I pop the chair.
Newcastle County Police are trying to figure out who killed a well-known business owner and his new wife. It all happened late Saturday night in the Paladin Club apartments in Wilmington. NBC 10 Delaware Bureau Chief Tim Furlong spoke to friends of the victim and police about the killings.
Witnesses told police they heard men shouting and then the gunshots outside this building in the Paladin Club apartments in the early hours of Sunday morning. 39-year-old Joe Connell and his wife Olga, married just a few months, killed outside on the front steps.
Figures you see somebody every day, 12 hours a day more than you see your wife. So we were pretty much best friends.
They were married for 89 days. Joseph Connell and Olga Connell had stood before family and friends in June 2013 and promised each other a life. By September, they were dead in the grass outside the condominium at 84 Paladin Drive in Wilmington, Delaware. At 1:28 a.m. on September 22nd, Newcastle County Police responded to reports of gunfire. Joseph was found near a line of shrubs, his cell phone still in his hand. Olga was rushed to the hospital. She did not survive. They were both 39 years old. Joseph had built C&S Automotive Repair from the ground up. Cars, engines, invoices, long days at the shop. He had once served time in prison years earlier, a chapter he did not hide from Olga when they met through an online dating service. She had immigrated from Russia. She worked the front desk at the shop. Customers knew her voice. Friends described her as warm, loyal, steady. They were not living extravagantly. They were building something modest and shared, a small condominium, a honeymoon still fresh in memory, plans that did not extend far beyond the next few months. They were newlyweds in the most ordinary way. Joseph did not run the shop alone. His business partner was Christopher Rivers. The partnership was formalized in October 2012 when the two men secured a mortgage of just under $1 million through Susquehanna Bank. As part of that loan, each man was required to purchase a life insurance policy in the amount of $977,500. The policies were meant to protect the business. If one partner died, the proceeds would pay off the loan. If both died, the debt would disappear. On paper, it was a safeguard. After the murders, it became evidence. Christopher Rivers was 31 at the time. In the years before the killings, according to law enforcement and later reporting, Rivers struggled with substance abuse. Investigators described a pattern of opioid use, cocaine, and prescription pills. He had also been charged with possession of anabolic steroids. Prosecutors would later suggest that financial strain and drug dependency were part of the pressure bearing down on him. Those closest to the business said tensions had grown between the partners, disagreements, distrust, the kind that creeps in slowly. Publicly, Rivers described Joseph as his best friend. Privately, according to the state's case, something else was taking shape. The investigation moved carefully. Phone records were examined. Financial transactions were traced. Detectives identified repeated contact between Rivers and a man named Joshua Bay. When first questioned, Bay denied knowing Rivers, Confronted with call logs and deleted communications, he changed his account. He acknowledged that Rivers was his mechanic. He later admitted Rivers was also his drug dealer. From there, the state built its theory that Rivers agreed to pay Bay $60,000 to arrange the murders of Joseph and Olga Connell. Bay, prosecutors said, recruited two other men, Dominque Benson and Aaron Thompson, to carry out the killings. The $60,000 was not paid in advance. According to testimony, Rivers provided Bay with a $5,000 down payment before the murders. After Joseph and Olga were dead, additional payments followed. Another $5,000. Later, $2,500. Then $1,500. Small sums, delivered after the fact. Bay testified that after receiving the first post-murder payment, he met with Benson. Benson called Thompson and relayed the amount. Thompson reportedly rejected it. He told Bay that Rivers had been playing them, that the promised money had never truly existed. The message was clear. Payment was expected. The police arrested Rivers and Bay on September 3, 2014, nearly 1 year after the murders. Benson was indicted days later. Thompson was arrested months after that. 4 men charged in connection with the deaths of 2 newlyweds. The case became widely known as the Paladin Club murders. Coverage spread across television, print, and online outlets. Reports detailed the alleged murder-for-hire scheme, the life insurance policies, the deteriorating partnership. The defense commissioned a statewide poll to measure public opinion. Many respondents who had heard of the case believed Rivers was guilty before the trial began. His attorneys asked for the trial to be moved out of New Castle County, arguing that pre-trial publicity had poisoned the jury pool. The Superior Court reviewed the media coverage and denied the motion, finding that the reporting, while extensive, was largely factual and not inflammatory. Jury selection proceeded. 12 jurors were seated. At trial, the state laid out its case piece by piece. The mortgage documents, the insurance policies, the phone records, the financial exchanges. They argued that Rivers stood to gain control of the business, free of its debt if Joseph died. They argued that he arranged the killings through Bay to make that happen. Bay testified. His account connected Rivers directly to the agreement and the payments. The defense challenged his credibility, pointing to his own criminal exposure and plea agreement. But the jury heard the evidence and weighed it. One legal question became central: whether statements made by co-conspirators after the murders, statements about collecting payment, could be admitted into evidence. Rivers' attorneys argued that once the killings occurred, the conspiracy had ended. The court ruled otherwise. In a murder-for-hire scheme, the judge reasoned, payment is part of the objective. Efforts to collect it remain within the conspiracy. The jury deliberated. On April 29, 2016, Christopher Rivers was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, conspiracy in the first degree, and criminal solicitation in the first degree. The convictions did not end the case. Rivers appealed to the Supreme Court of Delaware, arguing that the denial of a venue change denied him a fair trial and that the admission of post-murder co-conspirator statements was improper. In March 2018, the court affirmed the convictions. It held that the media coverage was not so inflammatory as to presume prejudice, and agreed that in a murder-for-hire case, the conspiracy extends through payment. The judgment stood. What remains is not only a record of legal reasoning, but the shape of a relationship that unraveled. Joseph Connell trusted his partner enough to share a mortgage tied to nearly $1 million. Olga trusted her husband enough to join her life to his. Together, they trusted the future. Christopher Rivers, according to the verdict, made a different calculation. The state presented evidence that he was struggling with drugs, under financial strain, and willing to exchange lives for relief. The murders were not described in court as impulsive. They were presented as planned, negotiated, priced. There is a particular cruelty in that kind of crime. It reduces love to liability. It converts partnership into profit. Joseph and Olga Connell are remembered in the court record as victims. In life, they were newlyweds arranging furniture, greeting customers at a shop counter, answering calls from friends. They were two people beginning something. Their deaths ended more than a marriage. They ended a version of trust that assumes partnership means loyalty. The final word in the Supreme Court opinion is simple: affirmed. For the legal system, that word closes a file. For the families of Joseph and Olga Connell, the file will never close.